Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Bree Noble, and I am here with Tara B. We are doing
Yes.
these episodes once a month now, and I'm totally loving it. We're trying to make the stuff we talk about really timely, and this one is so timely.
So timely. You'll
Yes, so
find
we're
out.
yes, we're gonna be talking about things. We did our episode about like things that go wrong during a gig, and people loved it. I think it resonates, right? Because everybody has stuff going wrong
Absolutely.
during a gig. This is more like what happens if you have gigs planned, which you should, because you
Mhm.
can't know what's going to happen in the future, but you have things planned and then something happens with you physically, like
Yes.
sickness or something that Tara will talk about in a little bit into the episode. But like, I wanted to release this in November, December because we all have a lot of gigs and then
Mhm.
things happen. You get a cold, you get COVID, you get, stuff like that. It's going to be a really interesting convo, and Tara can speak a lot to this because she's got a lot of gigs. And I remember when I was gigging all the time, I would book out Christmas gigs a year in advance. Like you can't know what's
Yes.
going to happen to you. But
No.
like then I have weekly worship, right? So I have to be on my game too.
Hmm.
So let's get started. So Tara, like, what do you, does it freak you out, first of all, to like book all these gigs in December, knowing that there's a decent likelihood that you're going to get sick somewhere in there?
It's funny because I have actually gigs booked for 2026 December
Oh,
already.
that's so cool.
Because, yeah, because some places they kind of want you every year. So thank
Yep.
God for those. But yeah, I mean, there is that sense of like, oh, I just hope I'm healthy, that I can get through this next month. Because, even for me this year, I don't know if it's like 12 or 13 gigs, which isn't, I've had even more other years, but I'm like, it's still a lot because you think about, yeah, am I going to get sick?
Yeah, but you're also working at the church too, right?
I
So,
am.
so
So
that's more gigs.
there's more gigs, right? Forgot about those. So how about you? I mean, when you've done like, and even for you, like leading at church, because you're on.
Yeah, I mean, leading is not hard, and I do have people helping me, but I
Mhm.
love to program special music during Christmas.
Yeah,
And every time I put it on there, I think about it. I think, oh, am I gonna be able to sing "O Holy Night" on Christmas Eve like I always
right.
do? You know?
Right. Me too. I know. So have you experienced to like in some Decembers or the holiday season, have you had times where you either had laryngitis
Mm.
or a cold? And kind of what have you done for that if you've had one or the other?
I've actually been lucky in December. I can't remember. I remember a couple of years when people in my house got sick. Oh, there was one
Hmm.
year when we all got the flu, but that was right before I started working at the church.
Okay.
So that was okay. But then like other years, I think somebody in our family got COVID and I had to stay away and I didn't end up getting sick. It always happened for me at Easter. It happened at
Mm.
Easter a few years ago. People got COVID and I got it. And like by the third service, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely have COVID. But
Yeah.
luckily it was by the end. But I remember there was when I was touring,
Mhm.
February, I had this big like 2 week tour in February all over California. And that is
Mhm.
always when I got sick. And when I
Yeah.
get sick, I get a cough. And that is the worst for singing.
Yes, it is. The dryness and
Yes, I remember being on stage, and actually, it didn't happen while I was singing. It happened while I was speaking because I was
mm.
doing my keynote concert, and while I was speaking, I got a cough, and I could not stop. And like
Oh
someone
my.
ran on stage with a cup of water, and I'm like, "Hold on, like talk amongst yourselves for a minute," because I
Yeah.
had to get over it.
Well, and so that's one thing is so when you have either like a cough or I know for me, I've had colds sometimes where there's like drainage or just, maybe everything sounds a little nasal. So what are some of your go-tos for that? Because obviously there are times where we can still perform, but it's not at, the best. We're not at our best, maybe.
Yep. I mean, I was probably maybe 7 or 8 years ago. We had this conversation in the Female Musician Academy, my community, and people were like, "Throat coat tea. You got to use throat
Yep.
coat tea." And I went on Amazon and I bought like the 6 pack, and I still have it, and I use it when I first started working at the church because I was so out of practice with my voice. I would use it every week and it
Mm-hmm.
helped a lot. And so that's kind of the first thing I go to. I started telling my daughter that when she had an audition and she wasn't, feeling up to her best. And so I think that really helps. It kind of just calms everything down in there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had something called they call it fire cider, but it's basically just all natural things like apple cider vinegar, ginger, honey, lemon in hot water. And that's kind of been my go-to a lot of times, especially if I get drainage,
Yeah.
which
I
I know
know the
it sounds.
vinegar can like get rid of like bacteria and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not if you add honey to it, enough honey, which honey's good for you, especially
Yeah.
like Manuka honey, but just even raw honey, it'll help. I mean, sometimes it's just about trying to get through a gig. I mean, it's literally like what can you do to get through that hour or a couple of hours, that you're singing, and feeling good. And the other thing I have used before is the neti pot.
Oh,
If I've had
yes.
sinus stuff, do you use that at all?
I have used that before. It's yeah, if I have just a lot of stuff up there that is
Yes.
stuck.
Yep.
It's been a
So they're
while
kind of,
since I've had that kind of, just blockage, but it
me
really
too.
helps.
Yeah. And, sometimes again, we're just trying to find ways to get through the gig.
Yep.
So, okay, but uh what happens? Oh, actually I should ask this. So, if you are having like maybe more phlegm or nasalness or whatever, do you ever do anything with changing keys of your
Mm.
songs?
Yeah, and that's where I'm so thankful for my music theory training that I can change keys to plenty of different keys that are a little bit easier if needed. I mean, certainly with the Oh Holy Night, I always think to myself, well, I can always get a lower key. And actually, this
Yeah.
year, our pastor is going to play it on guitar. So I can be like, okay, let's
Mm.
just play it in a different key. If
Sure.
I can't hit those high notes or whatever, or sometimes it's even the low notes, or it's
Yeah.
I know sometimes for me it's like the middle.
Middle,
I
I was gonna
remember
say.
being really sick and like I can sing low and I can sing super high, but the middle
Yes.
just literally is gone.
I'm the same way, Bree. If I do get laryngitis, that's exactly where it is. It's right in the middle.
Stupid
So,
pistachio.
right. Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Yeah, so
So
do you do that too? Because I know you're
I do.
really proficient at changing keys and
I
stuff.
do. I mean, I thank God that yes, I have that ability and I've done it for so many years that it's not
Also on a
hard.
key, if you're playing a keyboard, you can just press a button and change the
You
key.
can. I have a hard time with that. I don't have perfect pitch, but I think they call it relative pitch. So for
Uh-huh.
me,
It
it's like,
bothers you.
yes, because my hands are in a position and
Like,
I'm
that's not
hearing
an A. Yeah,
right, I'm hearing the wrong key. So I usually it's like I just can't do that.
that's funny.
But it isn't usually a big deal for me to change keys on most things. I'm not saying everything. Sometimes I'll even if there is a song that I'm figuring it's going to be too hard, I'll just pull in a different song last minute,
Yep. And unless
So
you've published your playlist, which most of the time we haven't,
right.
unless
So
it's a particular thing like my keynote concert where I had specific
right.
songs that needed to be sung. But
Of
even like with
course.
that, my hardest song was the opening song because I always wanted to like wow them at the beginning, and I could always
Mhm.
change it. I could change it to a different song.
It's true. So true. And I think those are important things to remember too. Like for musicians, don't feel shamed by like if you have to, or I think it's just better to be able to sing well, whatever parts you can, and don't feel like you have to do the big things. Maybe you can't for certain gigs. Like for me too, it's like, yeah, maybe I don't go for the high note for that gig.
Sure, it's better than crashing and burning. You're gonna hate that more if that happens. If you have a
I
big crack
know.
or something.
I know. So I have a question because I know we've talked a little bit about this even before just on our own or whatever, but um what do you do? if you can't find, like, if you can't actually do a gig, you're too sick, maybe you're throwing up, I don't know, but,
Well, that's a
because
really good reason not to do a gig for sure.
right. But like last minute where you just realize like there is no way you're going to be able to get through something, what do you do? Or what have you
Well,
done?
I have some backup plans. I have a few people I can call now, and now luckily, we've got a pastor that can do music. So if I need him to do it and he has to do double duty, he can.
Yeah.
Better than not having music, right?
Hmm.
So when I first started, I had moved back here from living away. I like didn't know anyone, so I was really stressed about
Right.
not having a backup plan. Um, and so now I've got a few people I could call, and those people know people. Like, even if I only know three people and they can't do it, they know people. And so, I've experienced this now where I needed a pianist for something because I needed to direct the choir. And I
Right.
cast somebody, and they're like, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm out of town, but here's another name." And now I have that name, and now I could call her. And if she can't do it, she knows people. It's like you get connected, especially when
Yes.
these people are like, a lot of these people that I know, they are like high school music directors. So not only do they know other music directors, but they also know
Right.
students that might be, students that maybe are now in college that could play. There's a lot of
Right.
connection there.
Well, and I think that's important because I think if people too wonder, like, well, how am I supposed to get connected with other musicians? Because I know too, like, I've got quite a few people now that I can call for, whether it's piano, whether it's vocal, whatever it might be for gigs. Even my own brother, I love because he does solo gigs. So a lot of times I'm like, why don't you call my brother?
Yeah.
Keep it in the family. But I think like you said, like you said choir director or high school, was it choir directors? But
Yeah.
yeah, people like even like if you're teaching at a music studio, if you happen to be a teacher, like talk to the other teachers. If you're at a church, talk to the music director or other music directors at other churches. I mean, like there's ways that, like you said, you get one name and then you call them, and usually they'll know more people. So it's just being kind of willing to start contacting people if you
Yep.
don't write, if you're a solo artist and you maybe don't work with other people.
Well, and as
Um,
we know, musicians usually have multiple streams of income. So in my experience, a
yes,
lot of these musicians, they work at a high school, they also work at a church, or they also have a
right.
private studio, and then they have a bunch of students that they might be able to refer. They're
Well,
not, we're all pulling from all kinds of places as musicians.
I know. And I'll say something I've noticed. So this tribute show that I am in, we have 11 people in the show. And when you're talking about keeping 11 people healthy
Oh,
for
yeah.
shows, we have literally subbed out. I think we've had three different drummers. We've had like four different guitarists. We've had different saxophone players. But it is because people know, and all, even of those 11 people, we all know so many people. So when we're even trying to find subs, if for some reason one doesn't, there's just more names that keep coming up, like in the group text.
Yep. Yep. What do you do for the principal, the three of you? Like, do you
Well,
have subs?
we don't at the moment, and thankfully, I can't even believe I can say this, but in 21 shows, we have all been healthy enough. Like we've had a few shows where somebody got laryngitis the next day.
Oh, gosh.
So I did one time, and one of the other ladies did another time. But we have talked about people who we could call if that happened. Now it'd be super hard, I mean, for them to have to learn things, but we literally just had to our drummer broke his hand before our gig last week. And so he called in another drummer and he was able to do it and he did it incredibly, but he only had like 2 days to prep. So,
Oh, gosh.
you know, but I think I just think that having yeah, just even a couple of people that you could call and then just continuing to reach out and like don't be afraid to. Actually, I think musicians like to help each other out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also, it allows them to meet new people and be in new circles too, so they can expand their network. The thing is, we have to vet them, right? So like if I
Yes.
call a person that I trust, I know that they're going to give me someone really good. But
Absolutely good
but
point.
like we can't just be like, oh, that person does gigs. Like I've heard that
Yeah.
that person performs downtown. Like I'll just call them. I would want to like actually go to their gig and make sure that they were going to represent me in a way that I liked. But and like
Absolutely.
not just like listen to them online because you don't know what they're like live.
Right. Such a good point. And the beautiful part of it too is when you get sick and someone has to fill in for you, if you call them and they're your go-to, like I know with my brother, or I have another friend of mine too, I also in turn have gotten gigs from them,
Mm-hmm.
when they've had something going on. And so it's really a win-win in that
Yep.
sense.
But of course, we always have to remember like this reflects on us. So we just have to make
Yeah.
sure that we're going to recommend somebody if we're going to be like, look, I am so sorry. Like, don't have a voice, but I've got this amazing person, and if you could even like, if you had their website or something, so you could show them that like this person's legit and it's not just like, a random person that you've heard could sing.
Right. Well, and again, by you knowing someone, if you are the one that's getting the sub, it will give the place, um, what am I trying to say? It'll give them confidence, and also then it takes something out of their mind
Yeah,
last
it's
minute.
professionalism and like I would never feel good about saying like I am so sorry I can't play. You're gonna have to find someone else. Like it's
Right.
my problem, right?
Right. I know. And when you talk about having COVID, I think it was a year ago in March that I suddenly got COVID. I didn't have it all 4 years and then I got it. And what I remember was it was like 4 gigs I was going to miss. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So some I was able to reschedule, but there were one or two I couldn't. And my brother was available, which was kind of a fluke. But I think by him stepping in, and they were so happy that I had somebody right away to just say, yep, and
Yep.
it was
Yeah, I
easy.
mean sometimes if it's like a monthly kind of thing, they could just schedule you for another month. But if it's like a
Right.
Mother's Day tea, like that only happens once. So you can't reschedule.
Right. And one thing again too, or may happen like a funeral. I actually had that happen where somebody asked me to sing for a funeral last minute, and then I got sick.
Hmm.
And so again, had to call somebody super last minute, but you just never know. So,
Yeah, but yeah, there are people that are on the funeral circuit, like I am now that I work at a church, and I
right,
know, a certain repertoire of songs, and so like
right.
hopefully that's one of the ones they're asking you to do. All right, it would be
Hmm.
pretty easy to learn, right? A lot of them, especially in the church world,
Yes,
they're asking for the same songs,
very, very often.
Yes.
Oh
Well,
man.
let's see. Have we covered everything as far as like sickness? Because I think, we all deal with it and it's a fact of life, unfortunately. And as singers, it's a pain and it's hard. But then there's these fluke things that happened, that you get a physical injury. And it was crazy when I contacted you about like, I think we should talk about this. You're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
so timely.
Yeah. So I have, I'm in a show for those of you who can actually see me talking on video, but if you see, I have a splint on my hand. Um, my third finger, it's my right hand too, and I'm right-handed. But a couple months ago, I was at a gig outside actually, and crazy part is this is healed, but I literally got stung by a yellow jacket
Oh,
and jammed my finger in the same
oh my
like
gosh.
half hour. And I somehow jammed my finger on, I was using a bathroom door and I was grabbing for it. Just the dumbest of things, but I could feel the pain shoot through. So I had two things I was dealing with before that gig. And so weirdly so I had ice along with me. And I was kind of checking like, well, can I still do the gig? Because it
So
was
this is
before the gig.
before the gig. Oh
For the
gosh.
gig. And I was with my brother and it seemed like the ice helped. And so I played and I got through it. It was fine. I wasn't in great amount of pain, thankfully. But and it started to heal a couple days later. So I just thought, it's probably just a jam finger, it'll heal, whatever. But then I think I kind of re-injured it
Mhm.
again by grabbing something and I don't know, I was still playing piano on it all through September and October. I probably shouldn't have been. But I finally went to a doctor, a hand doctor, and he was pretty sure that I had torn some of the ligaments that are by the joint that goes across your middle finger. So I
Mm.
had jammed it, displaced it. Anyway, so he said, I have to wear this little band thing or this little splint for 8 weeks.
Ay, ay,
And he
ay.
told me this 2 weeks ago.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
and I'm
And so
thinking,
you can you actually not play with that?
well, technically I can and I could. I mean, I kind of checked it out to see like could I actually do an accompaniment that was more simplified? And yes, I can. But he did ask me, he said, I told him this, full-time musician, gigging, and he said, "Well, I would prefer if you wouldn't play piano."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay, so I'm going into Thanksgiving and Christmas season because 8 weeks basically takes me up to about Christmas."
Wow. And
So,
you have to weigh it. Like it's like I
yeah,
want to do good gigs, but it's like this is your livelihood and you don't want to
right.
do anything that's going to make it so you can not play the piano like you normally do forever.
And that's kind of what he said. I mean, it was this, I said, "So what happens if I play?" He said, "Well, you can, but he said you could injure it further, and
Mm.
then it's going to be an even longer process. Or I might injure it further where then they actually have to do surgery. And surgery, he told me, was a 3-month recovery."
Oy.
So I made a decision that I was going to try to find other ways. And so, because I am a pianist and accompany myself, I just was thinking, what am I going to do? Well, of course, we have our technology world.
Mm-hmm.
And so, YouTube, I knew that there were karaoke videos and instrumental videos. And so, that has been my go-to. And I did 2 gigs this week using my iPad with, videos from YouTube, created playlists.
So
Had to
does
get
that mean
YouTube.
you have a YouTube subscription because you don't want random
Yes,
ads coming on in the
absolutely.
middle?
Had to purchase that. So, but I
Yes.
was like, you know what? Worth it.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah,
it's
because
it
otherwise you have to go and get I used to get tracks just off of like iTunes, but each one is like $1.50 or whatever now. And so if you're
right.
getting a lot, like it might be worth it to get that YouTube subscription.
Right. And to be honest, they gave free one on YouTube. So
Oh,
it's like, so I'm technically not paying, but this month. But anyway, the part that I think has been hard is just the time that I've had to put into finding
mm-hmm.
these videos, whether it being the right key, making sure that they don't sound super cheesy. And with the limited time I already had, because I was coming into this with having a tribute show, stuff at church, we had major weekends with All Saints Weekend and all these different
Mm-hmm.
things. And so time has not been my friend. And so going into these gigs this week, it's not like I know these arrangements that well. And so there are some of those glitches that I had where it's like,
That's
oh,
right. They
I
put
might
an
want to start
extra
that one.
measure in here and I
Right.
don't do it that way. Yep.
Right. Or like, are we ending yet? I think
I,
we are. So, and
yeah.
then
Oh,
volumes of the songs, I had to adjust some of that too, like for each song. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of extra work, but on the bright side, to be able to have this ability to be using
oh
technology,
man.
talking to the places they have Wi-Fi, it's a huge deal. And I also have Bluetooth with my system, so my iPad works with that for miking that. So it just there I know I'm just giving you guys a lot of details, but it really has worked in this case.
No, it's that's really helpful and I think this is helpful for anybody that doesn't play an instrument and it's like it
Right.
holds them back from doing gigs. Even
Yeah.
professionals have to do this sometimes. I do this because I don't want to lug my keyboard or
Right.
I for whatever reason it's outside
Right.
I am only doing 2 songs so it's not worth it to lug my keyboard. There's all
Right.
the reasons you would need to do this or I'm just doing like this little luncheon at church and I'm not going to do this big setup for that, you
Well,
know.
even or if you're flying somewhere, let's say you're doing kind of a
Yep.
tour and you're flying and you don't want to be carrying your instruments
Yep,
around.
that's exactly like when I was talking last time we were talking about the mishaps and I was talking about how I had to plug
Yes.
my phone in and I didn't have the dongle and my daughter did, thank goodness.
Right.
Like that
Right.
kind of thing, right? I had to do tracks there. They didn't have a
Yeah.
keyboard for me. They didn't even think about it.
Right.
That's not their thing. They're not a musician.
Well, and the interesting thing is, so I was feeling going into these gigs, and maybe you guys would feel this way too, whether A, don't play an instrument or you're used to playing one. I just felt like, oh no, this is just gonna be cheap or something because I'm singing with tracks and they're not gonna like it. Nothing I experienced like that. Absolutely
Mhm.
nothing. I had people saying like, "Oh, it took me down memory lane," or just kind of the normal things. And so I think we've got to be kind to ourselves and realize that if we have to, do something a little different, as long as we show up and we're still trying to give it our best and connect with an audience. And I told them about it too. And
Mhm.
just giving them the story, I think people are more, they're going to respond.
Sure, and especially if people have had you there before, like they know.
Right.
But I, I think especially in people that do play instruments, we feel like, oh my gosh, like this is cheapening the experience, like you said, like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, maybe I should give them a discount, and that's not true. You're still offering a really great, entertaining experience. It's just different than you wanted it to be.
Right. And I think that's a mindset too of recognizing that when something happens, and even if you had to like have someone play with you, accompany you, whatever way, it's just to remember that maybe it's not what you wanted, maybe it's not what you normally do, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be terrible
Yeah.
for those that you're performing or singing to. So, do you have any thoughts too of like if there's injuries, like what people can do, maybe even in other ways?
I've never had an injury that I can think of.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, obviously we can have injuries where it's like really a problem for us to like lug our equipment, you know? And then we
Yes,
just we
or
just
or
need to ask
drive.
for help. Yeah, our drive. We just need to ask for help. Like, don't
Yeah.
feel that it makes you less professional or bad, or you certainly can ask the venue. Like I've been to places where I was performing and I was taking the train and I asked, is there someone that is at this organization that might be able to pick me up?
Right.
Like people are willing to help. You just have to ask.
I agree. I mean, to be honest, even when I talked to my the people that booked me this week, and I told them I was just asking to make sure they had Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
and I told them the situation, and it's funny. It's not like anybody went, "Oh, well, that's a bummer."
Uh-huh.
They were the opposite. Like, "Oh, how can I help?" And even yesterday, I had people saying, "Can I help you like bring in your equipment?"
Yeah,
And
they
I was
see
like,
that thing on your hand and all of
"Yeah,
a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, let me wrap your cords for you." And you're
yeah."
like,
I'm like, "Well, thank you. Yes." So I think we can, in the midst of something that's really difficult, and especially I'm thinking too, like, what if you hurt your leg or something? Like maybe
yeah.
it's the transportation part, like Bree said, just ask for help.
Yeah,
People
I would
actually want
say,
to.
my experience working at a church and even when I was touring all the time and I had my church connections, like, there are plenty of people that are retired that would
Yes.
love to come with you to a gig. I've had sometimes, I'm like, oh, I really need to get to this gig or I need help or whatever. And they're like, oh, that'd be super fun. And they would, drive with me to the gig and hang out. A lot of times it's like a lunch gig, so I would get them a free lunch and like they would love to be a part of that. We just think, oh, this is like a normal life to be having these gigs, but plenty of other
Right.
people would be like, that would be super fun to go to that gig.
And that they're helping someone out. I mean,
Yeah.
I forget that because I'm thinking I actually like to help out people if I can.
Yeah, but do we have time? No, but like when I'm
No.
retired, I hope I can find
Yeah.
people that I can help.
Yeah, I know.
And if I
So
can be around music, even better,
even better. I
right?
know. Cool.
Well, is there anything we didn't cover? Hopefully we gave you guys a lot of really good like practical solutions for this stuff because let's not pretend these things don't happen because they do.
They do. And I think, I guess the only thing I would just say is that don't feel like it's the end of the world if you get sick or if you have to. Like, we are human. That may happen. And you may have to try to find someone to take a gig or, I mean, I do understand the one thing that is really hard about it is the financial piece.
Hmm.
Like, if you can't do a gig, suddenly you're out that money. But I mean, again, if you do reach out and have someone else, you never know when they may have an extra gig for you. And so it still may come around.
Very true. Very true. And yeah, I mean, I that is one stressful thing about being a musician, right? Like
Hmm.
you're counting on this money.
Hmm.
So I don't know, I'm not a freelance musician all the time now, so I'm not in that experience.
Hmm.
But, how do you deal with that stress? Like, do you kind of have like an emergency fund or something for if something like that happens?
Well, not always. And to be honest, and I'm a believer, so I just pray. And I have to admit that every time I've had that, somehow God has always provided for me
Mm,
something, like something last minute, or I don't know, someone sending me a gas card or something. I mean, honestly, it's kind of amazing. And I think, like I say, sometimes even just with the places that I'm playing at too, sometimes they are willing to reschedule. Sometimes they can't, of course, but there have been places when, as long as they understand, and it may not help for that month, but it might help for the next, so it still kind of evens out in the year.
yep. And if
And
they do have like an open schedule where it's like maybe it's an assisted living or something where they have someone coming every month, maybe you book yourself out 4 months out, but you still get a sub for that month, and so you're still
right,
not losing that money,
right.
but you're
Yep,
not leaving them high and dry either.
right. I mean, it is, I'll just be honest, it is scary. I'm a single woman. I've always had to make my living this way. And so I've had many moments like that, but I'm still standing.
Yep.
So
You're a testament that it can be done.
it can be done.
A music life. Like you've
Yeah.
basically been, I mean, I know your thing kind of says like I've been doing this for 25 years, but it's more than that now. It's at
Yeah.
least 30, isn't it?
Yeah, it actually is. Because I'm 56,
Well,
so
because
I'll
you
own it.
started really young, right?
I did. I did.
So,
It's funny. I was just talking actually on this podcast of my engaging performer and how I started booking when I was 15. So, there was,
so
yeah,
let's just
I've
say
been
it's been
performing
40
40
years.
years.
What?
Oh, that is
I
crazy.
know.
Woo.
Well, it can be done, you guys, and
Yeah.
you'll get through it. If you get sick, like
Well,
just utilize all these tips that we gave you and don't like if they didn't want a human, they would have just
right.
played canned music, So
Right.
humans come with human problems.
Yes. And the more that you're just, I think, open and honest about it and yet being proactive, like even if you are sick, it's like they will respect that. We're building relationships. I think all the time we do build relationships with our audiences too, but we're also building them with the people that book us.
Yep, for sure. For
They do
sure.
understand. Most of them.
Yeah, most of them.
Maybe
And
not
if they
all, but
don't understand, I think maybe that should not be a place that you're playing
right.
because like it's not a good fit.
Right. So,
'Cause you gotta
yay.
Totally. Well, this has been a great convo. I would
Yeah.
love to encourage all of you listeners, like if you have anything you want us to talk about, we're planning
Mhm.
on doing these generally once a month. So
Yeah.
reach out to us on Instagram. I am at Profitable Musician LLC, and Tara is
Tara Brisky music.
Tara Brueske Music. And can you spell that? I know.
Yeah, I know. It's TARABRUESKE. Looks like Brewski.
Right. We'd love to hear from you guys. Let us know what
Yeah.
you'd like us to talk about next on the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.